Good morning, good afternoon, good time of day to anyone who's coming in. Welcome to Banner and Backbone's Anti Fascist Book Club. I'm Nick Perro, your host and co founder here at Banner and Backbone. I'm joined by some of my really good friends and colleagues from various networks, various places, uh, Banner and Backbone included, with Chris Goldsmith, the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler, who wrote the book club itself. So super excited to always have you here, Chris, with us, and the founder at On Offense podcast or On Offense with Chris Goldsmith that is doing some incredible stuff. Chris, do you mind? I'm going to go through everyone again, like always, to reintroduce. Do you mind giving your quick blurb on who you are and saying hi to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm Chris Goldsmith, founder of Task Force Butler Institute and Veterans Fighting Fascism. As Nick said, I wrote the instruction manual for the Anti-Fascist Book Club. So if you want to start your own version of this, just go to veteransfightingfascism.org. It's like the whole point of the website is to teach folks how to do just this. And next week, I will be launching my first episode of On Offense, the new podcast. Whole goal of On Offense is to change the mindset that Americans have about democracy. We've been talking for 10 years about defending democracy, but if our only concentration, our only stature is defense, the other side just has to simply gain an inch, score a point, they win. So let's go on offense.
Hell yeah. Especially after this week of capitulation and going on defense after should have what been on offense kind of fucking sucks. Glad you're here with us, Chris. And we are going to continue going on offense. Next, we have our friend Stephanie Wilson, who is Dr. Stephanie Wilson, a doctor of history, and a good friend of mine on some of my shows. But she is the creator and host of Freedom Over Fascism, doing some incredible interviews and making some really neat connections. Stephanie, do you mind introducing yourself again, too?
Well, hi, everybody. It's great to see everyone here at the book club. So I have had the podcast show Freedom Over Fascism for a couple years now. And I interview people as a way to get to know different ways and better ways to talk about our situation, to understand where we are in the context of our history, and to build a community. So I am so grateful to have met Nick and all of the folks with Banner and Backbone. And that whole community building is one of the ways to go on offense against fascism. And I want to continue to bring you really great interviews that dig deeper than your typical breaking news interviews. I seem to be able to make almost anyone cry. So maybe I'm the new Barbara Walters. So beware. But yeah, the interviews are really great. And it really tries to focus on what we can do to fight, and also the radically creative ideas we're going to need to build a new America when this moment is over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Thanks, Stephanie. So glad to have you with us. Really glad I've gotten to know you over this past month and a half or two.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for accepting my invite. Oh, will it do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we get hearts going in here. Don't put two fingers up. You'll get balloons, and it's really obnoxious because I always am like part one, part two, and then I get balloons, and it's always about something not celebratory.
Never does it.
And then next we have our good friend Tara Devlin of Tara Buster and the Political Voices Network. She is doing some incredible work herself. I get to talk with her quite often. She goes on some great rants
Oh, thank you.
And I love to just go off with Tara. You saw us
Yeah.
today. Tara, can you introduce yourself real quick?
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you, Nick, really, and everyone else here in this great meeting. I have a show on Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. on the Tara Buster YouTube channel and on the Political Voices Network. And also starting a new show on Tuesday. There'll be a Tara Buster Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, coming up this week. And the first guest is JoJo from Jers. So that should be pretty good. And yeah, she confirmed, so that's cool. And
That's awesome.
we're here to, I mean, I really believe that one of the problems, well, we have a lot of problems, but one of them is the media. The reason we're in this boat is because of a propagandized media that spreads misinformation, disinformation, gets people dumb enough and divided enough to vote for their own demise. So we have a duty to break through that noise. And I think that's what we're doing here. And that's why I do my show. And I really am honored to be in this group that is really making a difference. So this is how we're going to win. We got to break
Thanks,
through the
Tara.
noise. Thank you.
I'm glad that you're here with us, helping break through that noise.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to get to know you. And I'm excited for your new show.
Yes.
And then finally, we have our good friend and Banner and Backbone's own Rant Act lead with Shane Yurick, the wonderful Melissa Corrigan from Counterstory Media, Navy veteran, on the ground investigative journalist and reporter with us. Can you introduce yourself a little bit more, Melissa, and then we'll get into it?
Absolutely. So I represent Counterstory Media. We exist to audit the narrative by telling personal stories and telling the truth. And that's been challenged in the past couple of weeks with me personally. And my commitment is always transparency and truth. And also a little bit of ranting. I've been known to go on a bit of a tear myself. So every Thursday night at 7, Shane and I are putting that to good use. We have the Rant Act where we rant and then we act.
Nice.
We give you an action item to do that we all do together. So if you're interested in that, 7 p.m. Eastern, myself and the great Shane Yurick are up to all the good nonsense.
Love it. Thank you, Melissa. And let's get into it today. So we're going to focus on 3 chapters today. So today's episode is all about investigate, make eye contact and small talk, and practice corporeal politics, or corporeal. I don't know how to say. I think I said that right. But we're going to start with investigate, it's chapters 11, 12, and 13 of On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. For anyone who hasn't been following along, we're almost done on our On Tyranny discussion, and we're breaking it down hour by hour per week. And so you get a really long form book club with us on this one. It's going to be almost 8 episodes long when we're done. And when we are done, we're going to put it on a banner cast with just the whole series itself of On Tyranny as a season. So you can watch all of them in a line or individually, trying to make this really easy for folks to follow along and get their deep dive into the book too. But the first one we're going to do is investigate. And I think this one's a super important topic. I'm going to read the opening quote for it because it does have to do a lot with us and those of us on this panel and in the book club, but also a lot of people in our audience who do their own investigative work too. Is investigate. Figure things out for yourself. Spend more time with long articles. Subsidize investigative journalism by subscribing to print media. Realize that some of what is on the internet is there to harm you. Learn about sites that investigate propaganda campaigns, some of which come from abroad. Take responsibility for what you communicate with others. And so Melissa and I want to put this into super real context. Melissa and I had to do this week, and we investigated this week because we have a good friend named Chris Goldsmith who knows a shit ton about bad groups and groups that are trying to do harm instead of good. And he told us about one of the underlying groups that helped spawn the Refuse Fascism organization. And we owned up to not knowing that information ahead of time, and learning more, and correcting ourselves in real time because of that information. Melissa, Chris, do you want to go? Can one of you go into, like, Chris, do you want to go into the deep, like, knowledge of what the underlying group is for Refuse Fascism? And it's the Revolutionary Communist Party or Revolutionary Communist Organization that helped spawn this group. And we're not affiliating ourselves with them because they've been pretty cagey.
Yeah. So my chief investigator actually reached out to me because she saw a mutual friend of mine doing an Instagram video where they were collaborating. So it shows up on both Refuse Fascism's account and his account. So she reached out to me to say, hey, you should let him know that Refuse Fascism is a front for the Revcoms. Now, I had not actually thought about them in a couple of years. Now, if you want to be a communist, you can be a communist. That's fine. I don't care. Like, none of that matters to me. Anyone who has introduced themselves to me as a communist, including, I think, the founder of this group, I just ignore. Like, guys, wants to hand out leaflets like it's going to save the fucking world. I've been dealing with these people for 20 years. So Revcom is kind of a cult. They are like an MLM type thing where their goal is basically just to extract money and resources. And with little spin-off groups like Refuse Fascism, they're basically rebranding or whitewashing themselves so that they can ingratiate themselves into existing movements and suck them dry of resources and push them all into this MLM thing. So the way that I first became aware of them was a few years ago when they were trying to basically co-opt a pro-abortion movement that had, because of the overturning of Roe, because of the Supreme Court case Dobbs, had a ton of energy and had physically people going to Washington, D.C. to protest. And a bunch of women's healthcare organizations, pro-abortion organizations got together and wrote an open letter condemning these people because of their history of taking over these movements and sucking them dry, and of encouraging protesters who are like new to any given movement to do things and act in ways that are generally harmful, not just to the individual, but to the movement as a whole, to act in unsafe ways, putting themselves at risk, putting other protesters at risk, escalating things when it is not beneficial or safe or something that the entire group is even aware of. So the way that Revcom responded was to issue cease and desist orders to everyone, basically threatening to sue them. They're not a group that I have ever had any personal interaction with outside of one of their founders introducing himself to me at the June 6th rally for Unite for Vets, and he tried to like get into vets fighting fascism, and I basically just walked away. But I think that folks should know that not everybody who is saying that they're fighting fascism are folks that you necessarily want to hang out with. The enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. The enemy of my enemy can sometimes be a tool. And that is maybe how you should look at them, because they're going to look at you that way. You are a tool for the ends that they want to achieve. So that's not, if people have their own priorities, they have their own risk tolerances and their own threat assessments that they do. for their everyday activism.
Mm.
I just want to make sure that people know who's behind this group and know their history, because they tend, I mean, I don't know how many years they've been around, but they've been acting the same way as long as I've known about them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Melissa?
Right. So, how I got involved with Refuse Fascism was just looking for organizations doing on the ground work in DC to mobilize people on a consistent basis. We've all across the board talked about the need for a sustained resistance movement. And those were those magic words that Refuse Fascism used, was they are starting the sustained resistance movement. I did due diligence and poking around their website and sort of reading everything. I contacted them. I joined a Zoom call with them as a sort of a partner planning meeting. And at no point anywhere in that process did they mention any ties to RCP. So I was completely unaware of that. And so I went to DC and participated in that march and rally, which went beautifully. And when I was informed of their connections, I immediately, first of all, came forward and told all of my readers and viewers, hey, I know I told you to go sign up with this group. Don't do that. Don't give them your information. And I'm going to reach out and try to get some more information from them. I'm already not super happy that they didn't reveal to a potential partner a connection like that. I think that's in full transparency, something they should have revealed in the beginning. So I emailed them and asked for some clarification. And I specifically asked, are you still connected to this organization legally or financially? And after getting passed around to a few people, I did get an email last night from the national leaders of this group. And it did read very much like an MLM type of deflection. They did not answer my question. They sort of shamed me a little bit and said, if we are all together in fighting fascism against Trump, does it really matter what the organizations we're working with? So like, I'm pretty sure the Taliban wouldn't want Trump as president, but does that mean we're going to work with the Taliban? Like, obviously not. So I found that to be a very off-putting response. And then they would, they agreed to talk to me further if I would set up a call with them. Now, if that's not an MLM tactic, that you can't just answer my question, you want me to get on a call. And then they further suggested that maybe I'm not super clear on what the RCP stands for, and I should really read the work of Bob Avakian. So,
oh God,
it was a very, very disappointing.
Have you read this L. Ron Hubbard?
Right.
Dianetics.
So I'm disappointed. I came right out and told all of my followers, this is the deal.
Wow.
There is another coalition. What is it, Nick, off the top of my head? What is it? The Removal Coalition is a coalition that is almost entirely 50-51 chapters and indivisible chapters. So I'm going to pivot my support to them. They are hosting events. If you are still wanting to come to DC and you do not want to engage with Refuse Fascism, then there is an alternative for you. And November 20th to 22nd, there are 3 days jam-packed. There's a march led by Al Green, and the capstone is a concert, a sort of political musical rally by Dropkick Murphys. So a lot for everybody in that weekend to come out and still support without engaging with that particular organization.
I think that's awesome. I'm glad, Chris, you started that investigative work with us to get us rolling there and made sure we pivoted off that organization.
The last thing I need is to be on another list.
Yeah, like I don't want to be on someone's watch list because I accidentally promoted the Revolutionary Communist Party. Like,
right?
Come on,
that's what you need.
Again, and if people want to be communists, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's on them.
It's not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
right.
If like I don't care.
The disclosure piece. So if you are involved in an organization, do your due diligence and really get in there and dig deep and see what ties they have for sure.
Yeah.
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 I don't know if this is in fairness or whatever. One of the first people that I interviewed when I changed my podcast to Freedom Over Fascism was Refuse Fascism, and the one who I thought it was just a podcast actually, and she Sam Goldman came and talked to me, and she runs their podcast, and it seemed, completely. I mean, she seemed a little bit like thinking, like her tactics didn't feel terribly realistic to me, but it didn't seem violent or anything. But so in fairness, they don't talk about that at all when they are working with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suspect that most people are as you were, Nick and Marissa, when you first engaged with them, you just didn't know. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people who are engaging with them, I don't know if they fucking sell shirts, like if they're wearing their shirts or whatever, people
Yeah.
are becoming affiliated. They
Yes.
just don't know what's behind it.
Right. I think we need to, as a little side project, we need to possibly put together one of those charts like we do have for right-wing organizations, like which ones definitely veer into negative territory. We should be doing that for the left too. We should be keeping our eye on our own just as much.
Yeah, I think a way to look at this is kind of like not a good and bad, not a spectrum of a single axis, but similar to the way that the media bias and credibility charts that go around every few years, they get updated.
Yeah.
Like they're not perfect, right? No analysis is
Right.
ever going to be perfect, but you can place all of these groups on a chart. And their response to our criticism is like, well, are you with us or are you like with the fascists? And that's a George Bush like dichotomy that I'm not going to accept. Like I can work with everybody else over here. I don't have to work with you. You're not the center of the movement as much as you want to be.
Right.
I can do my work and insulate myself from the crazy shit.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm distracted here for a second. I'm answering someone in the chat who is very black and white in their opinion about what we've been discussing around communism. One, none of us care about communism. It's not the system of government we have, and it's never going to be. We're not a communistic society, so too fucking bad. Also, getting rid of commies doesn't equate to getting rid of Nazis. Like they're not dichotomy. They don't. I looked into your profile too. You've got some weird shit in there, dude. Like you're gonna get blocked after all of this. So blockity block. It's not something I am unwilling to do. Like you stay, but I may let you stay here just because you probably need this book club more than most.
Yeah.
Like, you are so black and white in your thinking that maybe this will help you.
That's a good policy, I think. I mean, the answer that I give to people of like, what about the commies is I've never met an actual dangerous communist. Like I've met dangerous fascists, and I see dangerous fascists. They achieve power and can do bad things, like
right.
building ice into a larger military force than the United States Marines. Right? That's what fascists do. Communists, they do nothing. Like they suck movements dry. They like destroy movements. So they're dangerous in that aspect, but they're not a danger to society because they're generally, and this is just my experience, fucking idiots. And they can't organize themselves out of a wet paper bag.
Well, to be fair, there was an entire Soviet Union that was very, very, very bad.
Right. I'm talking about in the United States.
Right, in the United States. I mean, there's no large or effective communist movement in the United States. It's just
and never has been. Right.
It's nothing but a canard that the Republicans point to whenever we try to promote the general welfare over the welfare of billionaires. Then they scream, "Oh, commie!" So
Yeah, I'm not saying
yeah.
like Fidel Castro wasn't dangerous and that like
Right.
the
Yeah.
USSR was not like right. I'm talking
Right.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
American
I can.
communist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all
Yeah.
the airtime we're going to give this
Yeah.
person. You can continue to put in your stupid chats for now. But if you become a nuisance, we will block you. Just letting you know. I want you to be able to learn because you seem pretty black and white in your opinions right now, and we want to give you shades of gray because it looks like you might need that knowledge if you're not a troll, if you're not a fake account bot, and you really want to learn something. Stay along, brother. Stay along, Bix. Have fun. But anyway, let's keep like Tara. What do you think about this investigate overall and what we're doing and how it
Hmm.
Well,
improves the quality of the work that you do because you spend time actually thinking about it?
Yes, I mean the only thing when I read this, the one and in fact, Timothy Schneider points it out that you have to go to credible sources too. There's a lot of this whole do your own research crowd out here in America that
Right.
use really dodgy resources, and they're not really helping anything except they're just adding to the confusion and the harm. I think so. You really do have to look at the source, and I think there's a lot, and that takes a lot of it does take energy and effort to whatever I do, even when I use the AI a lot for researching, but you always have to cross reference and go in deeper and find out, like, and look at various sources too. You just can't take the word, like one word for it, and then but yeah, so even though the AIs do lie too, so that's why you have to do a lot of you do have to do the research. You have to put the footwork in. But there are, like, even as I do criticize the mainstream media a lot, but there's well, Fox News aside, there are, even on MSNBC and CNN, the legacy media outlets, there is a standards, and there are standards and practices that they have to follow. If they do tell a lie or they say something that's incorrect, they have to correct themselves. The same thing for the New York Times and whatnot. But they're still a mouthpiece, of course, for the billionaire class. So you got to keep that in mind too. So yeah, I mean, as far as the information, you really have to take it all in context, I believe, and it does require a media literacy at this time, and I
Mhm.
wonder about that, if young people are being taught this in school. I know that they are taught that in
they're
other
not.
countries,
No, they're
yeah,
not.
but not here. Yeah.
No,
Nor are they taught
no.
about
I have.
civics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been responsible for teaching all my kids how to investigate a source, how to dig deep. If you see
Mm-hmm.
something, go verify it at least 3 other
That's
sources.
right.
If you can't
Yep.
find 3 other reputable sources, it's probably not true. And I like how Timothy Snyder describes the process that we go through. So he says, try for yourself to write a proper article involving work in the real world, traveling, interviewing,
Mm,
maintaining relationships with sources, researching in written records,
yeah.
verifying everything, writing and revising drafts, all on a tight and unforgiving schedule. Because when I'm covering the Flock case, I've spent over $300 downloading that court docket, because what they don't tell you, sure, it's public
Mm,
to look at those documents. It's public to look at the docket, but you have to have a Pacer account and you have to
yeah.
pay to actually open the documents to get into the meat and potatoes of it. So for an independent journalist, that's a
Yeah.
line item that we have to think about to actually dig into these cases to cover them with any degree of efficacy and truth. What's buried in the discovery for Flock, for the Norfolk case alone, defies what's on their website. If you can actually open the discovery and look at it, you can see that they're lying to our faces.
Hmm.
So that is the process that true investigative journalists have to go through, and that costs time and money. So when you're in a media sphere that doesn't want to pay people to do that, they want quick headlines, the salacious shit that gets
Right.
people to click. It's more and more difficult to establish truth in media, and that is That's the reason that I immediately, the morning after Chris sent me that message, I went live with my viewers to talk about that, because if you can't trust what I put out at Counter Story Media,
Right.
I need to go away. That's it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing is trust. Is like trust can so easily be broken by one small thing, and it's easier to put yourself in a situation where you don't need to break that trust by just saying, "Hey, I didn't know ahead of time, and now I know." Because people respect that, because other people do that too. Like, that's just a human thing, is when you learn something, you go, "Oh shit, I didn't know that before."
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
publicly announce it so that others don't follow in a bad trajectory. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, and like really building off what you just said, with Timothy Snyder saying that you should go and do your own journalism. He's not saying do your own research like libertarian Chris at 20 years old did his
Right.
research on fucking YouTube, right? Like, you guys didn't just take my word for it, right? I gave you a lead, I gave
Right.
you, you know, the headline, and you went and verified that, you know, the I don't know if it's Reagan trust but verify.
Yeah.
It's actually a good practice to keep. You know, the game of telephone can be really fucking dangerous. And if like I misunderstood something and then just repeated it to you guys and you believed it without doing your own research, like I could have sabotaged something good, right? Inadvertently. And your trust in me, though I'm a credible source, could have been the reason for sabotaging a good relationship. Instead, you made sure that what I was saying was accurate. And that is
Yeah.
something that more folks need to kind of bring into their daily habits.
Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that you told us too, because you wanted to make sure we knew. And then our belief in you was, yes, this seems wrong. Let's go learn more. And I think that's a good, just like Chris said, that's a great practice. It's also leads, I think, into the next two chapters really well, of the book, which are Make Eye Contact and Small Talk, and Practice Corporeal Politics, both of which are basically a page or two long. Like, they're very short chapters. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on how this like influences your investigative work or on the ground work, and how this translates into the work you do in your podcasts and shows. Like, when do you take what you're preaching and apply it in daily life? Like, I talk a lot about go out and meet your neighbor or say hi and just do something slightly out of the norm. And I've started doing that, and it does make a difference. Like, you meet people and you can change someone's mind, if you just talk to them. And it's not even about changing their mind, but you can influence their thought process a little bit. And you can't do it if you don't ever go out and talk to them. And I know it's hard sometimes to look people in the eye. I know some of us have like issues with that anyway. Like, it's hard for me to sometimes look people in the eye when I'm in person. But if you do it, people have a little bit of respect, because it's a Western culture thing to do it. In other cultures, not looking in the eye is the polite thing to do. So just want y'all's thoughts on that, and the idea of corporeal politics, which is basically get outside, meet new people, and put yourself in places that you wouldn't otherwise be. And I also think that applies to virtual spaces now too, like this. So want all y'all's thoughts around those.
I'd like to talk about the whole connection piece. One of the things that we teach in our leadership course, which is really a course on better humaning, is that things like connecting with other people is really important for collaboration. Like, as you said, Nick, you were talking in the political sense of changing people's minds, but really you want to form a collaboration, like in some senses the way we have, to to tackle a problem together as opposed to either separately or in opposition. And that takes practice. It's really important to learn how to connect with people fairly quickly, but it's not easy. And it's not easy, particularly for really young people now who spend a lot of time at home during the pandemic and have most of their communications over digital. But if you can find a way to very quickly just connect with somebody and be able to relate to them on a human level, it can really help all of your, I'm talking like a leadership coach. It just really helps you human better. Like the way I do it is kind of silly if you think about it. But so particularly with women, I will remark upon something they're wearing, like, oh, awesome nails. And it totally works, right? So it doesn't work with everybody. It works with gay men too. But finding a way to just like have a little way that you connect with people can be really helpful, because you want to get past the superficial as quickly as possible. And you want to learn how to make deeper connections so that you can share information and joy and community. And I really believe, as much as I don't get out as much as I want to, that being with other people who are like-minded, who are loving and open, gives us so much more. For me, it grounds me and it helps me be able to give more to the world. And I think that may be true for a lot of people.
Yes. I mean, I think this is really about, yes, make eye contact, but it's really about fostering connections and
Exactly.
building a community. And that's exactly what the Trump administration and the Republicans want to discourage. And they throw, their monkey wrenches into any kind of community. Every fissure of disunity, they highlight it, and they want to separate people and encourage a conspiracy-minded kind of isolation, a social isolation. And so, yeah, this is about trust, building trust in your community and your neighbors, and building these connections that will, get people to show up for each other. And and I think that's what we need for a healthy society, for a healthy, multiracial liberal democracy. And it's like, it goes back to, when you think about the early civil rights movement, that's why they encouraged busing and affirmative action, because there was a belief that if we knew each other, then racism would be over. It was all about erasing those lines. And even though that is an aspect to it, but there's also a legal, a systematic change that has to happen, and that's what they learned through that. It really does start though with building the connections. So that's what I think.
Right. And in all sorts of peace movements all around the world, you have a much harder time fighting against people personally. If you know people on the other side
That's
personally, and you can understand that they have
Exactly.
kids and worry about the same thing that you do, and they're worried about their jobs and whatever, and that your lives are far more similar than they're different, then it's not everything, but it's a better start than just thinking of somebody as completely different and foreign and alien, which is why the regime uses the kind of language they do for immigrants and for anyone they don't like. The dehumanizing language is really important. So the humanizing things as opposition, as fighting fascism. That's why, joy and connection are really so important, because the other side is trying to tear us apart.
Yep.
I like
Yeah,
to I've started making my sort of in unofficial office 1 or 2 days a week, this coffee shop in Portsmouth, and I talk about it a lot. And I think it's an incredibly unique space in today's world because, number one, it's not a Starbucks or corporate owned anything. It is locally owned, but the location of it is quite interesting. It's right next door to the police station / city hall. It is a block away from a Coast Guard station, and yet it is in an urban downtown area. So the mix of people that come into that space is truly, truly remarkable, that there's not like fist fights on a regular basis. But I think part of the reason for that is that we nobody talks politics in there. Like, it talked past tense. But about a week before the election, the dam broke. I walked in one day and I couldn't believe my ears. Every table was talking politics. Every single one. It was like the Twilight Zone in there. We just didn't do it. You don't talk politics when there's a cop at that table and a politician at that. It's
somebody must have started it.
Everybody's polite, but on this day, we really started chatting, and since then, it's been a lot more open in there, because I think that day, as the dam broke, nobody hit each other. Nobody flipped out. Nobody was rude. There were definitely a lot of different opinions all over the place. And I do love so much that talking with police officers gives me a different perspective than what I may assume from my viewpoint in life. I've never been a police officer. I'm a military vet, but I've never been a cop. So the way that we are beginning to foster conversations in that space now has become a really beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, we say, bye, have a great day. Nobody angry, nobody holds stuff. But there's a couple of old guys that come there, like these guys are in their 70s. And one of them began like just solid ranting MAGA. He just everything out of his mouth was illegal aliens are taking all the health care, and through these kind conversations, through us asking him questions and can you clarify what you mean by that, and then having people that are in trusted positions to him to have police officers correct him about something. Say, well, we don't really see that on the street. That's not what we're seeing out here. That's the type of thing that begins to change that guy's mind, because these authority figures that have been held up in MAGA culture, police are, we back to blue. So when a police officer tells you that your assumptions on the behavior of undocumented immigrants in your neighborhood is not what you thought it was, they're going to listen to that. So this is why I began a chapter of this book club, the Anti-Fascist Book Club, that meets in a coffee shop in Norfolk, so that we can begin to have these frank, face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball conversations, because there's nothing else like it. You can't just get up and walk out of the chat room. If you just get up and gather your things and walk out of the coffee shop, you look like, the problem, essentially.
Right.
So it kind of forces people to sit in a little bit of discomfort. And for a lot of us, even us older people, we blame the young people for this, but even a lot of older people have grown uncomfortable sitting in spaces where we don't feel entirely comfortable. We can't just blame that on Gen Z. That's no. Throughout all of us, because of internet spaces. And it's so easy to exit out of a chat room or walk away or block someone. And in real life, you have to sit with their statement that made you uncomfortable and sort of digest, why did this make me uncomfortable? And then you can have an actual fruitful discussion about it. Chris starting a book club to discuss this stuff is really brilliant. And I hope that a lot of people in here are taking this out into their communities to have in-person book clubs, because there's just no replacement for it.
And even just in-person conversations, like
Yeah.
taking this and just talking about the things that we're talking about, or talking about issues that you know are important to you and that are important to everyone around you. And like, we can see how important things are. And I don't know if this question was asked in good faith, but I'm gonna ask the question anyways, because it is a kind of good question, because it's one of those that we need to be able to answer for people. Is our working class concerns about immigrants entirely illegitimate? I would say yes and no. For the most part, yes, they are illegitimate concerns. They're manufactured concerns about immigrants to make you fear them, to make you think they're taking your jobs. The reason that those concerns exist is because Republicans have consistently sown fear and have made division and made education in this country worse. So we need external labor forces to come in and augment our workforce, because the Republicans have purposely made Americans less educated and demonized education. And so, no, for the most part, immigrants are not coming in and taking your job, because you're not even educated enough to have that job, because the US government and the Republican Party has made it so that you're not educated enough. You should be mad at them, not at the people who can fill those positions because they were offered the chance to take them. And Trump called y'all stupid yesterday. Basically said, we want H-1B visas because you're too dumb.
That's
Well,
it.
you know, I agree with you, Nick, but it's not just this Republican administration. Throughout,
Oh, I'm not saying just this one.
No, but I mean, the whole idea of demonizing one group so that the people just above them on the societal ladder have somebody to hate, so that they don't actually rise up against the people who are really making their lives miserable, is got a really long history in almost every part of the world. So I think what the Republicans do is they take advantage of that piece of human nature, which is like, if you can be, that's a whole Roman divide and conquer, right? It's divide people against each other so that you can conquer them, not to divide your forces and flank them or something. So I think that we have to be really aware of the, as you were saying, Nick, the conscious, deliberate decisions to make it educated, a workforce or a entire population that's less educated and less tolerant and less flexible. But also, there's a really long tradition of using these tactics to increase your own power. And I just read an article today by a guy I'm going to have on in a couple of weeks. His name is Chris Armitage. He was military police, and then he worked for Department of Corrections. And people who are more right wing actually, in brain studies, have less empathy. So we also need to be teaching empathy, but only part of the population thinks it's important. A big part of the population doesn't even recognize it as a value that might be important. So that was a little bit meandering, but just the surface idea that somebody who's different than you is there to make your life miserable, especially if they're kind of lower on the hierarchy, is quite possibly manufactured. So to make the ones in power keep it.
Chris, posing this question to you real quick. Do you believe that the right-wing infrastructure in this country, for the most part right-wing, there are on the left-wing too, more far left, but on the right-wing infrastructure, do you see it more as an MLM in the entirety of its structure, and how racism is organized in the very MLM pyramid? Only one person at the top. You hate everybody down below. It's very caste-like. The churches are like that. What do you think about the connection between MLM, like lifestyle and personal connection, that enables a lot of right wing influence?
Yeah, so I think you're right to say that it's not just right wing. It's kind of our current systems of power, be it political, be it corporate, be it religious. There are and this is not unique to capitalism, right? Although many blame it solely on capitalism. Power structures are created through extraction. You're extracting someone's power, someone's privilege, someone's rights, votes, whatever, so that you, the actor, the powerful, can push forward your will using force of whatever kind, however you want to define it. It doesn't mean violence, right? It just means force of action. So when we think about whether immigrants should be a concern to the working class, that is a power dynamic that is being forced upon us by those above. The only immigrant that I am concerned with today in the United States is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That is it. He is the wealthiest
Don't
person
forget
on
Peter
the planet.
Thiel.
And Peter
Thiel is a close second, but you're right. I only have so much focus that I can dedicate.
Yeah.
So I look at someone as powerful as Elon Musk, someone who broke the law to come into our country, to establish his businesses, to ultimately amass more wealth than any human being in the history of the world. And I think about how he has effectively become a nation state unto himself. He has enough power and influence in a literal sense, enough power to switch off the lights, to switch off the internet for one of our allies in Ukraine, right? He can decide to do the same thing to the United States Navy, right? Like, he is one man. So I think that any American who's looking at someone who is crossing the border illegally, the stereotype of Fox News is like people climbing over a wall, coming over from the border of Mexico, their brown skin. That person has zero fucking power. They have no influence at all whatsoever. That is not to deny that, individual on individual crime happens, and gangs, yes, do exist, and yes, drugs do cross that border, but not the way that they come through shipping containers from China. Like, that is just a difference of scale, right? So I'm not saying that those things don't happen, but Elon Musk can annihilate a military. Like, that is where your attention should be if you're concerned about any one person or any one group that is going to, potentially influence your life in a negative way. So I want to encourage folks to keep that in mind. Like, are you being encouraged to hate someone who literally has no influence on you, who does not have the power over the agency to impact your life in any sort of way at all whatsoever, versus, it doesn't even have to be foreign, like a domestic corporation like Palantir, that is collecting your data, that could be used to, in the not too distant future, to economically paralyze you, to shut down all of your accounts, right? The state, empowered by corporations that have access to all of your data, which should be yours, you should have a right to privacy. That is far more threatening than someone from Guatemala who's just trying to feed their kids.
Yeah. And we have proof of like things like that happening in the United States right now. Melissa Corrigan took a video 2 days ago and recorded 3 flock safety drones
And then again
flying,
yesterday.
and then again one yesterday, flying in Norfolk, Virginia, where there's been no announcement, there's been no public notice of this. It's not on any of the websites or in any of the agreements that Norfolk and Flock Safety had made with each other. There's an ongoing case, court case right now about from Norfolk that Melissa's covering, and I have been broadcasting out as much as I can, and we've been putting on Palin Talk quite a bit, is the use of flock safety cameras to track citizens and their movement and correlate that movement for a surveillance state, and that there's no Fourth Amendment right for some reason, and that it doesn't violate your right to not have this type of search put on you at all times. And now the same police department that's in trouble just got flock drones and admitted and said, yeah, we're flying them. Bro,
Yeah,
you guys are in a court case.
Yeah, I called not as a journalist, but as I said, my son and I were taking a walk through the neighborhood, and we thought we saw something up in the sky, and she quite freely offered up, oh yeah, that's our drones, we're out flying drones.
And Peter Thiel is working to answer the question in the chat, is Peter Thiel is working to purchase Flock Security because of their software, not really because of their cameras, but because of the aggregation software and data mining that they do. And also, just want to point this out, Norfolk, Virginia has a naval base at it.
The largest in the world.
Who the fuck authorized flying drones without any FAA approvals or flight plans that can be found? Who authorized that near a military installation? That is a national security threat. As someone who worked with counterintelligence soldiers in the military, because I was a human intelligence collector and our counterparts were the counterintelligence collectors. Human intelligence collectors collect intelligence on foreign adversaries or from foreign adversaries. Counterintelligence collectors collect intel from us, from the inside, on what's going on around the inside. There is a counterintelligence officer and enlisted and sergeant sitting there and probably warrant going, who the fuck authorized drones to fly near this naval base? Because they can sell that data to whoever they want, and they can track and correlate military movements, personnel movements. They can plan drone attack operations against Norfolk Naval Base because somebody can go out and buy a similar looking drone and fly it around and collect that data, or Flock is just selling it. Like, that's my fear. Sorry, I took over on that one for that monologue, but I think
you're right, because
that's a terrible fear
of what kicked off the court case was the fact that they put these cameras up with no data policy or plan in place and used them for 4 months with no plan in place, and over 6 law enforcement officers, 6 that we know of, accessed the system before there was any policy, putting guardrails on that. So now they're launching drones once again with no public announcement, which leads me to assume they also have no policy and plan in place for the use of drone technology, which is infinitely more powerful in terms of surveillance. And they should be held accountable for that. Like, that should very widely be publicized, that now they're going to be flying drones over our city with no policy or plan protecting the citizens of this city from this type of surveillance.
Yeah. And I think this goes into investigate, because we're checking our own work, and Melissa is doing deep dives into checking what's going around and like what the authorizations were and if they showed up as they should have. But also, this goes into meeting our neighbors, and the corporeal politics part of it is Melissa's neighbors may not know this. Your neighbors may not know this, because if it's happening in Norfolk, Virginia, it's happening elsewhere in the country. And you can easily say, I know someone who personally had these drones surveilling near their home without any regulation or any identification of what they were doing or why they were doing it, and no data retention policy. And this is a violation of our constitutional right. And that's a fundamental right for everyone that we share. Like, you can connect on that by then going out and talking about this issue. to other people and just asking, do you want to be surveilled by a drone all the time? Do you want to have a personal tracker just following you wherever
Yeah.
you go? And being willing to spin up without a human intervention, because these flock drones don't need humans to launch them. They get trigger points from the cameras and then they launch themselves.
Yep.
Which is dangerous as shit, because drone swarms are or AI driven drone swarms are like the basis of all terrible sci-fi movies and the death of humanity. So if you want to watch Terminator, now's a good time.
Exactly.
My kid has to watch Blade Runner over the weekend, so he's taking an English class on
wow.
AI, and it's so fucking relevant. It's scary, you know?
It's
Right.
funny. Quickly, we went from like, oh, this is impossible, this is so sci-fi, to like, oh, it's here.
Yeah. And
Right here.
yeah, and with it's here, because we're just at the top of the hour and I want to respect everyone's time here, so let's shift real quick to it's here's Chris's new podcast is coming here, is here soon, and there was a trailer out this week, and I want to give you a moment to sell yourself, Chris, and the work that you've been doing, and how cool it is, and what you got on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this outro super short. So, On Offense is the new podcast. If you've been watching this episode of the Anti-Fascist Book Club, you know what that means already. If you go to onoffense.substack.com, you can read my Substack. I am taking this and making it an audio visual platform. You folks have been asking me, like, what can I do to defend democracy, to fight for democracy? This is what every episode of the podcast is about. We're in production right now. I've already done my first 2 interviews for the first 2 weeks. I did an interview with this historian, Tad Stormer, today, who's my favorite historian ever. He's a resistance historian. And we talk about, you know, what we're experiencing in this moment and the fallacies that have kind of made us a little weak in our response to the rise of fascism. So if you want to learn more, the QR code is on the screen. You can go to onoffense.substack.com or weareonoffense.com.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate it, and all the incredible work you're doing and support you're providing around for us too, and giving us knowledge and letting us go on offense, because we're tired of fucking losing because people decide they just want to give up. Let's go next, our friend Stephanie.
I am the host of Freedom Over Fascism, which is also an audio podcast and 2 live shows a week on Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 Eastern. And my purpose is also to understand this moment, to bring people together, and to give people actions on how to fight, as well as to encourage really radically creative ideas for when we are ready to build a new America. FreedomOverFascism.us. That's straight to my Substack.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Tara, how about you?
I do a show every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the Political Voices Network, Substack, and the Tarabuster YouTube channel, youtube.com/CFA channel/Tarabuster. And Tuesdays coming up, Tarabuster Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Jojo from Jers will be the first guest. And what else? Yeah, if you can become a Substack subscriber, that would be great. I got to get those numbers up, and if you can for free, that's awesome. If you can do it paid, that's even better. But everyone is welcome. Please subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks so much. Next, our good friend Melissa Corrigan.
Hello. Yes, I am, like I've mentioned before here, doing a deep dive on flock security, and one that will be getting even deeper now that we are uncovering the drone situation. I will absolutely be at my next city council meeting asking on record why there are drones flying over my house with no public announcement. So you might see me on the news. But there's quite a few projects I'm working on and digging in here. So subscribers are always welcome. And if you can't pay, that's fine. I just ask that you share the articles I've worked on and get that information out there.
Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate it. Sell myself real quick, too. I'm Nick Parrow from Sick of This Shit Publications and Banner and Backbone, but I'll get to that one next. Sick of This Shit Publications is where I do most of my chronic illness community building, and I'm trying to work on like positive masculinity and a new form of masculinity that doesn't suck, with some good shows with folks like Walter Ryan, but also chronic illness discussions with folks like Stephanie Wilson and Beth Cruz and So a lot of focus on health and positivity. I also do some poetry over there when I get time to. I have a lot going on, so I don't always get time for that. Next, finally, come hit up Banner and Backbone itself. This is the network. This is where we're building out all these projects. We have some incredible stuff that has been going on. We've got new backgrounds. We're upgrading designs. I'm putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. We even have our first podcast without me on it, which is Melissa Corrigan and Shane Yerrick on the Rant Act, which is first they rant, then they act. And it was a fun episode last night. So look out for the replay that's going to come out today, and watch it. It was amazing. And so come join Banner and Backbone so we can help support and build and push for further initiatives like we've got with these ones here. And then finally, special QR code that's coming out about, and I want to bring this one up because Melissa is really involved in it. And it's going to be a place for truth and uncensored media and content. And that is the 1A Collective. And Melissa, can you give just a quick outro on that? And then we'll close out today's episode.
Yes, so we're building out a space that is a virtual space that is not on American soil. It's in a country that doesn't extradite or share information with the U.S. So we're building out a platform for writers and artists and journalists and any creatives that want a place to host their content where it is not at risk of being taken down. So we're in the early stages, just building out that web presence. Right now, there's a contact form. So if you want to fill it out and get on our list, so you can get updated when the rest of the features are rolled out. We're going to have an old school chat forum like it's the 90s again, taking it old school, but a way for us to communicate in a space that isn't owned by a billionaire and not on U.S. soil. So we can be a little more free in what we talk about and plan there.
Love it. Thanks, Melissa. I cannot wait to see all the updates that come out and the cool stuff that is going to be associated with the 1A Collective, and how it can support the work we're doing. So thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming on again with me. I love having these episodes. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining us today. It's been a great episode. We've had some interesting back and forth in the chat. Someone may end up getting blocked today. I don't think they were really here in any good faith. But everybody else in the chat, thank you so much for your great engagement and support. Good questions, good feedback. Love it. That's why we love doing this. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. Do something anti-fascist, which is go read a book, go talk to somebody, go make some eye contact. And don't do your own research, do your own journalism. That way you can find out what good research looks like. So thanks, everyone. We'll continue this discussion next week in, I think, maybe our final or second to last on tyranny discussion. And then we'll be moving on to some different books. Look forward to seeing you all. Have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.